The applause hit me like a wave, loud, bright, almost unreal. I could still feel the velvet edge of my honor stole damp from my palms. Someone whistled. Another shouted, "That's our girl." But I wasn't looking at them. I was looking at the front row where my parents sat frozen. The same parents who paid every cent of my sister's tuition but told me I wasn't a good investment. Where in the world are you listening from? Subscribe if you've ever had to succeed without your family behind you. My name is Callie Monroe. I'm 24, born and raised in Lexington, Kentucky. To most people, our family looked picture perfect. White porch swing, garden full of tulips, polite smiles at church. Dad ran a local financial planning firm. Mom taught art part-time and organized every holiday down to the matching napkins. And Sierra, my little sister, was the Monroe family's pride and joy. Me, I was the quiet one, the helper, the backup plan, the already independent daughter. It started early. When I brought home straight A's in 3rd grade, I got a polite nod and a good girl. When Sierra got a B+ in social studies, they took her out for frozen yogurt to keep her encouraged. At 10, I asked for piano lessons. Mom said we couldn't afford it. A month later, Sierra got horseback riding classes for posture and discipline. I learned to stop asking. I read a lot. Taught myself basic budgeting by stealing Dad's old spreadsheets. Started doing side jobs in high school, editing papers, designing flyers, even dog walking. Meanwhile, Sierra floated. She failed pre-calc twice and still got a new iPhone to help her keep up. She posted mirror selfies with captions like, "Don't chase dreams, attract them." And somehow, everyone loved her for it. By junior year, I was juggling 2 jobs, AP classes, and tutoring. My counselor, Mrs. Halbrook, once said, "Callie, you're the kind of student colleges fight over." I smiled and nodded, but deep down, I already knew. No matter how many awards I earned, I wouldn't be the one Dad toasted at dinner. Sierra had the shine. I had grit. We both applied to college at the same time. Though she was 2 years younger, she'd skipped a grade. I remember the day I got my Westfield acceptance. I stood in the kitchen, holding the envelope. Breath shallow, hands shaking. It was thick. That was good, right? When I opened it, I felt everything shift. I'd done it. A real business school, a partial scholarship. I was ready to tell them to share the one moment I'd earned. But before I could speak, Sierra walked in, holding her letter from Vanderbilt. The timing cruel. By the end of that night, there was champagne in the fridge, gift cards for dorm shopping, and 3 new group chats made for Sierra's college send-off. I got a nod. A week later, they pulled me aside. "We've decided to fund Sierra's tuition completely." Dad said, arms folded like it was a business deal. Mom added, "You're more resourceful." And loans build character. I felt my ears buzz, like the world had gone underwater, like maybe I was the only one who could hear how wrong this was. They said they trusted me to figure things out, that I was built tougher. I didn't yell, didn't argue. I smiled, said I understood, but I didn't. That night, I sat on the edge of my bed, moonlight spilling across the floor, and whispered to myself, if I'm going to do this alone, I'll make sure I'm unforgettable when I rise. What about you? Would you fight for your place or walk away quietly? I didn't open the envelope right away. The Westfield crest glinted in the afternoon light, silver on navy. It felt heavier than paper should, like it carried something sacred, something I'd earned entirely on my own. I waited until dinner. Mom had made lemon chicken and overcooked rice. Dad was already halfway through his iced tea. Sierra was tapping away on her phone, fake laughing at something no one else could see. I held up the envelope. I got into Westfield. Dad didn't even look up. That's good. Mom offered a smile thin as tissue. Do they have dorms there? I'll probably live off campus, I said. It's cheaper. The envelope lay on the table unopened next to the napkin holder. I glanced at Sierra. She didn't ask a single thing, didn't even blink. Instead, she said, I'm hoping Vanderbilt comes through. They have an exchange program in Italy. And just like that, the energy in the room shifted. Mom perked up. That would be incredible, sweetie. Dad nodded. Let us know when you hear. We should plan a visit. I sat there invisible again with my acceptance letter still sealed. The rice on my plate had gone cold. After dinner, I took it upstairs and opened it alone. The letter was beautiful, bold serif type. A warm welcome to the School of Business, a partial scholarship. I stared at it for a long time, ran my fingers over the embossed logo like it might disappear. Then I folded it gently and slid it back into the envelope, placed it in the top drawer of my desk, next to old report cards and math trophies no one ever asked about. That weekend, they threw Sierra a pre-celebration brunch, just in case Vanderbilt said yes. She hadn't even been accepted yet. Dad grilled salmon. Mom ordered monogrammed paper straws. Relatives came in from Frankfurt. I served lemonade and cleared plates. No one mentioned Westfield. No one asked if I needed help with textbooks or housing or even a ride to campus. They'd already made their choice. To them, Sierra was an investment. I was a footnote. But I made a promise to myself that day, when I never spoke out loud, not even to Nana Ruth. If they wouldn't back me, I'd build something so undeniable they'd be forced to watch. The Westfield Scholarship was my last shot at breathing room. I'd found it buried deep on the college website, an independent fund for underrepresented students in business, sponsored by a retired alum named Clarice Dawson. The application was brutal: 4 essays, financial disclosures, 2 recommendation letters, but I did it. Wrote every word late at night after my cafe shift. Jalen curled up beside me, drooling on my blanket. I was nannying then. Every dollar counted. Mrs. Halbrook helped with the paperwork. Professor Lanning proofread my cover letter twice. I've never seen a student more prepared, she told me, eyes kind. I let myself hope. A month later, the rejection email landed like ice water. Dear Callie, thank you for applying. I stared at the screen, numb, all that effort gone, but I didn't cry. I closed my laptop and made tea like nothing happened. That evening, I heard Sierra on a call in the living room. She was giggling, saying something about finally getting that private funding and how Mom helped clean up the essay. At first, I didn't think much of it, until I walked by the printer later and saw her scholarship letter, addressed from the same foundation, the Clarice Dawson Fund. But Sierra wasn't underrepresented. She wasn't working. She wasn't even in business. She was majoring in communications and living rent-free in an off-campus condo Dad paid for. I picked up the letter, her name bold and centered, a full ride, my full ride. And at the bottom, in faint blue ink, Mom's signature as review editor. I stood there for a long time. I didn't scream, didn't accuse. I just folded the letter neatly and slid it back where I found it. Then I walked upstairs, sat on my bed, and wrote the first page of a business plan. Not for a grade, not for applause, for me. If they were going to steal my shot at survival, I'd build my own path brick by brutal brick. They didn't think I saw. They didn't think I knew. But I did, and I never forgot. My first apartment was a shoebox over a laundromat. The walls sweated in summer and moaned in winter. The windows rattled when trucks passed. The faucet screamed when it ran hot. But it was mine. I moved in with 2 roommates I met online, girls, just as broke as I was, though less exhausted. They partied most weekends. I worked. Mornings started at 5:00 a.m. at Cafe Thicket on Vine Street. I brewed espresso for half-awake tech bros and memorized orders from suits who never looked me in the eye. After class, I changed in campus bathrooms and rushed to the tutoring center, my second job. Economics freshman, accounting, marketing strategy. Most of my clients came in entitled and left confused. I didn't mind. It paid more than minimum wage. I ate instant noodles for lunch, sometimes nothing for dinner. On weekends, I did freelance flyer design, $25 a job if I was lucky. I once made a logo for a real estate agent who never paid me. He said I needed more polish. I said nothing and blocked his number. Meanwhile, Sierra posted stories from rooftop parties in Nashville. Cheese boards, fire pits, designer shoes. The captions: grateful for growth. Boss in progress. She'd gotten an internship at a boutique PR firm through one of Dad's clients. No pay, but that didn't matter. Her rent, food, and car were all covered. I was lucky if my bus showed up on time. Once I called Mom to ask if I could borrow $200 for textbooks. She sighed and said, Callie, you're always so strong. You'll figure it out. I did. I sold 2 old textbooks back early, picked up a weekend shift, and applied for a grocery stipend through the student aid office. That night, I cried in the cafe break room bathroom. Not because I was weak, but because I was so damn tired. But quitting never crossed my mind. Every hour, every shift, every skipped meal was fuel. I wasn't just fighting to survive. I was building something they didn't see coming. It started with an email I almost deleted. Subject line: graduation speaker nomination. Business class of 20XX. At first, I thought it was a mistake. Some bulk message meant for the top 1%. But when I opened it, there was my name. Not a mass send, not a fluke. Addressed personally by Dean Morales. Gatton, you have been nominated by 2 faculty members and 3 peers to represent the graduating class of Westfield School of Business. I stared at the screen, blinking. Me. I reread it 3 times, then closed the tab. I didn't respond. What would I even say? Who would want to hear from the girl who rode buses and packed sandwiches, who nearly dropped out twice because of rent? Graduation speeches were for legacies, for favorites, not for the forgotten. A week passed. Then Professor Lanning caught me after class. I heard you haven't replied, she said, tone gentle but firm. There's no one better to tell the story of perseverance. You didn't just survive, Callie. You built. I opened my mouth to protest, then closed it. Because deep down, I wanted to believe her. That night, I told Nana Ruth about the nomination. She cried. Your voice deserves to be heard, baby. Still, I hesitated, until Sierra called. She was giddy, chattering about how Mom and Dad had rented a house in town for graduation weekend. They were planning a catered dinner, inviting family, booking photographers. They're so excited, she beamed. Mom says they got VIP seating for the ceremony. I swallowed hard. Oh, I didn't know they were coming. They said they didn't want to miss my moment. That sentence was all it took. My moment, not ours, not mine, just hers. That night, I opened the laptop, went back to the email, and hit reply. Yes, I accept the nomination. They could have their rented house, their catered dinner, their glossy photo ops. But when I stepped on that stage, they were going to hear my voice, whether they liked it or not. The night before graduation, the campus was unusually quiet. I sat by the window of my apartment laptop, glowing in the dark, watching the glow of taillights from parents arriving for morning ceremonies. Down the hall, one of my roommates was FaceTiming her mom, excitedly planning hair and makeup. I sat alone drinking cheap tea from a cracked mug, reading over my speech for the 100th time. The first draft was safe, polite, grateful, the kind of thing I thought they wanted me to say. But it wasn't true. So I rewrote it, stripped out every apology, every watered-down phrase, added back the pieces of my story, the long shifts, the stolen scholarship, the nights I skipped meals. I wrote not to shame, but to show what perseverance actually looked like. I thought of Mom saying, "You're stronger, Callie. You don't need as much." I thought of Dad's eyes never quite landing on me. And I thought of Sierra shining under lights I was never invited to stand in. I didn't want revenge. Not exactly. What I wanted was clarity. For them to finally see what they'd chosen not to. To feel for 1 second what it was like to be invisible and watch that invisibility crack. I clicked save, closed the laptop. Then I walked to my closet and pulled out the stole Nana Ruth had embroidered for me by hand. Cream silk with soft blue thread along the edge. It read, "Oh, still I rise." That night I didn't cry, didn't shake. I just slept. The kind of sleep that only comes after you stop hoping they'll clap and start preparing to stand alone on the stage anyway. The morning of graduation, the sky over Lexington was the color of new linen, soft and clear, like it didn't dare interrupt the day. I woke before my alarm, didn't need it. I'd barely slept. Not from nerves, from focus. This wasn't about hoping things would go well. It was about delivering what I knew was ready. The apartment was quiet. Roommates still asleep. The only sound the faint hum of traffic and a lone mockingbird outside my window. I stood in front of the mirror, tied my hair back with the ribbon Nana Ruth had given me freshman year. The one she'd said was for when the world tries to forget how strong you are. Then I opened the small box she'd mailed 2 weeks before. Inside the cream silk stole. "Still I rise," it read in her script, steady, elegant, defiant. I traced the embroidery with my fingers. It felt like armor. I slid into my gown, ran a lint roller over the front twice. No makeup, just lip balm. Shoes, low block heels. Practical, dependable, like me. By 7:45, I was ready, not just dressed ready. Zoe, my old roommate from sophomore year, showed up right on time. She insisted on driving me to campus. "Big days deserve an audience," she said, tossing me a granola bar. In the car, she played an old playlist we used to study to. I stared out the window as the city passed by brick shops, flower stalls, couples walking dogs. None of them knew today would change my life. "Are you nervous?" she asked at a stoplight. "No," I said. And I wasn't. Because this moment, it wasn't given to me. I built it. Every shift, every rejection, every silent dinner and ignored victory. And now I wasn't just walking across that stage. I was walking into my voice. As we neared the campus entrance, I saw the row of SUVs already lined up. Families stepping out in suits and spring dresses. Mothers carrying bouquets. Fathers with camcorders. Laughter echoing under banners that read, "Congratulations, class of 20XX. Somewhere in that crowd, I knew and they were there. Mom with her signature oversized floral hat. Dad with his forced handshake smile. Sierra glowing as always, phone angled for selfies. They came to celebrate her. But they'd leave remembering me. The auditorium was humming with nerves and perfume. Dozens of graduates in black robes filed through the side entrance, clutching programs, bobby pins, and coffee cups. Light spilled in from stained glass windows. It danced across the polished floor and made halos on our shoulders. It felt holy. Someone handed me my seat assignment, row B, seat 14. Business majors were in the second wave. I scanned the crowd once, just once, before taking my place. And there they were, second row center. Mom in a lemon yellow wrap dress, clutching a tissue she didn't need. Dad in his navy pinstripe suit, tapping something into his phone. Sierra, of course, front and center, perfect hair, perfect posture, smiling like the day belonged to her. And maybe it did, until now. I turned away and focused on my breath. Counted backward from 10. Smoothed the folds of my gown. Beside me, another student whispered, "You're the one giving the speech, right?" I nodded. She grinned. "Everyone says it's going to be amazing." I didn't answer, because this wasn't about amazing. It was about truth. Dean Morales took the stage to polite applause, a few welcome remarks, a joke that landed soft. Then came the conferral of degrees. One by one, students stood when their departments were called. Accounting, finance, marketing, business strategy. My turn. As I rose, I felt the weight of the stole around my neck. The hem of my gown brushed my ankle like a drumbeat. I stepped into the aisle. From the corner of my eye, I caught at Mom's face a flicker of confusion. Dad glancing at the program, whispering something to her. Sierra's smile faltered. I didn't look directly at them. Didn't have to. I walked past their row like they were anyone else. Because right then, they were. At the edge of the stage, Dean Morales met my eyes. Callie Monroe, she announced. Our student speaker for the class of 20XX. There was a pause, and then applause. Louder than I expected, warmer than I deserved. I climbed the steps, heart steady, took my place behind the podium, adjusted the mic, and finally, I looked straight at them. Mom blinked. Dad sat back, crossed his arms. Sierra's lips parted, but no sound came out. I smiled, not cruel, not smug, just unshakable. And it was my turn. I cleared my throat. The microphone clicked. The room hushed. I didn't look down at the paper. I knew it by heart. "Good morning," I began. "My name is Callie Monroe, and 4 years ago I walked onto this campus alone." Polite nods from the front rows, some smiles, a few phones held up. I didn't have a car or a safety net. What I did have was a part-time job, a second-hand backpack, and a voice no one had ever really heard. A ripple moved through the graduates. I scanned the rows slowly, evenly, stopped on row 2. Mom had stopped blinking. Dad's jaw was tight. Sierra had gone still. I remember sitting in orientation watching other families take pictures holding signs that said, "We're so proud." And I thought maybe next time that'll be me. Pause. 1 beat, 2. But it never was. Not when I worked 2 jobs. Not when I won the regional business pitch. Not when I applied for scholarships no one helped me write. Now the air had weight. I let the silence stretch long enough to let it land. See, some of us didn't just earn degrees here. We earned proof. Proof that we were worthy even when no one bet on us. Someone in the back whispered, "Damn." I took a breath. This stole I'm wearing, I held it up gently, letting the embroidery show, was sewn by my grandmother. She's here today. She believed in me when no one else would. Nana Ruth stood up soft and proud. The room applauded. A few sniffles. I turned back to the mic. And today I leave this university with more than a diploma. I leave with a job offer at a consulting firm that saw me. I leave with my own business that I built from scratch. And most of all, I leave knowing I never needed permission to succeed. Applause built tentative, then strong. It swelled until it filled the space, reverberated off stained glass and mahogany beams. I looked one last time at my family. Mom's mouth was slightly open. Dad looked gray. Sierra's hands were folded in her lap, face unreadable. And that's when President Harlow returned to the mic. "One more thing," she said, smiling. "We are proud to announce that Miss Monroe's story will be featured in Business Forward magazine, and she has been offered a full scholarship to Westfield's MBA program." Gasps, a few cheers, even a standing ovation. But I didn't need it, because I wasn't standing there for their praise. I was standing there because I earned it. And now, they all knew. She didn't move. The moment the applause faded, I stepped off the stage heels, clicking on polished wood. I could feel the eyes on me, not just classmates, but parents, professors, strangers in the back rows, who'd probably forgotten my name until now. I didn't mind. I wasn't here to be remembered by them. I was looking for one thing. When I reached the end of the stairs, Nana Ruth was waiting. Arms open, eyes shining with tears, she didn't bother wiping. "You did it," she whispered, squeezing me like I'd just come back from war. I hugged her hard. "We did it." Zoe found me next, cheeks flushed. "That was legendary," she said, grabbing my arm. "No, you were surgical." I let myself smile, then just a little. But even in that moment, my eyes drifted. Second row center. My family hadn't moved. Mom's face was unreadable. Dad's arms were still crossed. Sierra sat rigid, hands locked, gaze flickering like she couldn't decide whether to be impressed or betrayed. I didn't expect applause from them, but I also didn't expect the silence to hurt quite this much. As I walked past Mom Rose, "Callie," she said, voice thin. "Can we talk?" I stopped but didn't turn. "Now you want to." Dad stood too. "We're proud of you." I turned slightly, just enough to let my voice carry, since when his mouth opened, closed. "We didn't realize how much you were carrying," Mom offered. You thought I'd be fine, that I didn't need what she got." I looked at Sierra then. She blinked, visibly shaken. Sierra stood. "Callie?" She took a step closer. Her eyes were glassy, not with pride, but something closer to shame. "You were right," she said. "About all of it." The world around us seemed to hush for a moment. I didn't see it before she added, "Because I didn't have to. But watching you up there." She looked down, then back at me. "I want to be better. I don't know how yet, but I want to." I stared at her. For a moment, I saw the kid I used to play dress-up with, the one who used to fall asleep on my shoulder during movie nights. But that was a long time ago. "You've got time to figure that out," I said gently, "but not today." Her face crumpled and she nodded. Behind us, the crowd began to shift. Grads finding their families, professors posing for photos, people laughing, crying, screaming. Mom stepped forward again. "Will you come to dinner tonight?" "We rented a place, I know," I said. "You told Sierra it was for her big day." Mom flinched. Dad tried again. "Let's put everything aside. You deserve to be celebrated." I met his eyes. Calm, clear. "I already am." And with that, I turned back to Zoe and Nana Ruth. We walked together toward the reception hall, past balloons, banners, and overly dressed relatives, who now looked at me differently. There was a small table at the side entrance with my name on it, a glass of sparkling cider, a copy of the Business Forward magazine mock-up cover with my photo on it. A few of my professors were already there. Professor Lanning hugged me like I was family. Dean Morales handed me a certificate for the MBA scholarship. One of the university donors clapped me on the back and said, "That speech is going to go viral. I hope you're ready." I smiled politely, but my mind was somewhere else. At the edge of the room, Sierra lingered, just watching. Not approaching, not retreating, just still. Mom and Dad never came inside. I didn't need them to, because in that room I had everyone who mattered, people who saw me when I had nothing, people who gave me a seat when no one else offered a table. We raised a toast with plastic cups, to resilience, to new beginnings, to earned spaces. Later that evening, Zoe pulled me aside. "What happens now?" I looked at the sun dipping behind the buildings, the reflection catching in the glass trophy on the table. "Now," I said, "I stop asking them to see me. And I start building so much light, they'll wish they hadn't looked away." We clinked our glasses, and for the first time in years, I felt weightless. 1 year later, my apartment looks a little different. There's sunlight on the countertops, there's always coffee brewing. And on the bookshelf sits my MBA acceptance letter framed, right next to a photo of Nana Ruth and me standing in front of the stage. I work full-time now at a consulting firm I once dreamed about. On weekends, I help mentor students who don't have support, students who remind me of, well, me. The digital marketing business I started in college, still running, still growing. Some days I walk by the mirror and almost don't recognize the girl in it. Not because she looks so different, but because she finally looks whole. Mom and Dad reached out a few times, polite check-ins, an invitation to Thanksgiving. One clumsy text from Dad that read, "Hope you're thriving out there." I didn't respond. Forgiveness isn't a door you open because they knock. It's a path you choose when you're ready. And I'm not there, not yet. Sierra, though, she's trying. We've met for coffee twice. She listens more now, asks better questions. She's not perfect, but neither am I. And maybe that's a start. But here's what I know for sure. My worth was never theirs to give. It wasn't tied to a tuition check or a dinner toast or their ability to recognize my effort. My worth existed quietly, stubbornly, even when they refused to see it. And when I stood on that stage, I didn't just speak for myself. I spoke for every person who was told they were too quiet, too expensive, too complicated, too much work. I spoke for the invisible. If that was ever you, drop a comment below. Where in the world are you listening from? And have you ever had to prove your worth? Don't forget to subscribe for more true stories like mine, because sometimes the best revenge is simply being undeniable.